Alright, welcome back to the next episode, or video, or whatever we're going to call it. Today I want to give you guys a walk around of our Demon. I never really did that. I filmed a bunch of stuff, but we'll just start fresh. Go from there. We're going to talk about what's going on with this S10. And I might have a potential idea for what I'm going to do with this guy over here. But what I really want to do today first is, before we do anything else, I'd like to get back on this MR2. So if you guys remember, last time we were working on the MR2, it had engine problems and whatnot. So today we're going to work... Where's my MR2? Maybe my arch nemesis got to it. I don't see it down here anywhere. I hope I don't step on it. Alright, so here's some video I shot about the MR2 and why I decided to go ahead and let that go instead of rebuilding it or trying to keep it. You know, the 4AG engine that came in these cars was only put in 3 cars in America. It was in the Corolla GTS, which was the rear-wheel drive, well, the GTS, the Hachiroku people know it as, right? The initial D-drift car, if you will. Pretty much the first car that made drifting famous. So this is the engine that came in those cars. This engine also came in the MR2s, obviously, in a transverse mount setup. In the Corolla GTS, they were rear-wheel drive front engine cars, so it was set up like a normal, like a V8 would be or something, rear-wheel drive setup. And then the Corolla FX16. The Corolla FX was a little hatchback. The FX16 had the 16-valve engine in it, which is this one here. So there weren't a lot of those cars in the U.S., so those engines were kind of scarce here to begin with. People were importing them for a lot of years from overseas because they sold a lot more of them overseas. But the reality of it is, this is the worst version of the engine. This big port early engine, this is first generation of that motor. They have like 5 generations, I think. So if I was going to go to all the trouble and effort of going through this motor, which is not cheap because parts are hard to find, and I would probably go to the latest iteration, or the 4th or 5th gen, the 20 valves. But you know, that's a lot of time, money, expense. This car is supposed to be a quick fix and flip to help fund some of these other projects. But it didn't turn into a quick fix and flip because I thought I owed you guys a good diagnosis on this. I was hoping I'd be able to get it running quickly, do 1 or 2 videos on it, and send it on down the road. But it ended up having some serious problems. And personally, I kind of knew what was wrong with it, or knew there was something seriously wrong with it right off the bat, and would have just cut my losses if I wasn't doing a YouTube channel. But I figured you guys were invested in finding out what was wrong with it, so I went ahead and finished diagnosing it, kind of. So, no, this isn't the car. I would love to build an MR2 at some point, but when I do, it's going to be wide-bodied. It's going to have probably a Honda K-Series engine in it, or a 20-valve Toyota. So, and I wouldn't want a blue interior. I would not want a T-top. So this is not the car. This is not the MR2 I'm looking for. Plus, the only thing I'd be using from an MR2 project would be the shell, the chassis itself and the body panels. And this one has structural damage. Here, let me just show you. Right there. So, right here, there's a crease in the floor pan where this thing was hit. This is supposed to be all flat across here, like it is on this side. You can see that. It's nice and flat across this area. And you got your 2 rows here. This is a crumple zone. That's why it's got all those knobs and stuff on it. So, it did what it was supposed to. It crumpled. But it would have to be straightened and fixed. And it's got a lot of rust. And if the shell's the only thing I'm using, why would I start with a rusty, broken car? So, this thing honestly is best as... This thing would really be best used as either a parts car or a restoration project for someone who wants to put the time and effort into fixing the metal damage on this thing and you know, cleaning the whole thing up. So I want to send it down the road to a better home. We tried to save it in a quick, you know, get it running, make it worth some money so no one would trash it kind of situation, but it is what it is. If you're invested in the MR2, stick around. Someday on this channel I may get to build the MR2 I have bouncing around in my head for the last 20 years. MR2 is gone. We went to a really good home though. I'm pretty happy about it. We broke even on it, which is always a good thing when you're unsure of condition of a vehicle. But it went to a home. The kid that bought it, I say kid because he's young and I'm old, but anyway, he has one almost identical to it. It's same color, same year, same interior. The only thing different between his car and this one was that his was a sunroof model and has a lot more rust and hail damage on it. So when I talked to him, it looks like he's probably going to just take the motor out of his car and any parts that are better and kind of combine the two cars to make one good one. So that's great. It's going to not end up in a scrapyard. So I'm happy about that. So anyway, mission accomplished. We diagnosed it, figured it out, and now it's gone. We can ignore that and move on to other things. Okay, let's talk about this here, 1972 Dodge Demon. So I filmed a bunch of stuff on it. I was going to do it as the next project, the idea being a budget build race car. But then I kind of realized I don't have that kind of funds right now, and I certainly don't have... Here's the thing, when you build budget stuff, you got to wait until you get the parts because you have to wait for good deals on used parts and things like that. So this project wouldn't go quickly. I'd be struggling every week to find something to do on it at a certain point. Right now, there's plenty to do. I could be sanding it down, going through repair and body work, fixing holes, patching things up. I could be doing stuff like that while I was accumulating parts. And I started accumulating parts. As a matter of fact, if you take a look over here, we got a Dodge, or not a Dodge, well, it could be a Dodge. We got a Mopar 400. This is the B series engine. I don't know, I feel like I already went over this with you guys in one of the videos, but I don't feel like going back through my 50 plus videos and looking, so I'll give you a quick rundown one more time so you don't have to go back either. This stuff's just on there to keep the dirt and dust out of all the important stuff. I'm pretty happy about having this scoop though, because that's exactly the scoop I had on my 71 Duster when I was 19 years old. Just picked up this tunnel ram. We got to fix a few things on the tunnel ram. It's got a couple holes drilled in it, so they put a plate over it. I got to take this plate off, weld up all those holes. I'll probably weld up all the holes in this thing and worry about where I put my vacuum stuff later. But yeah, it wasn't easy finding a 383/400 tunnel ram, but I want a tunnel ram on this engine no matter what. The only thing I would replace this with would be a blower if I came up on one. But again, you know, we're just accumulating parts for the race car. The idea wasn't necessarily that I was going to make it the fastest thing on earth. Like I said, it was going to be a budget. So we grabbed that 400. It came out of a running vehicle. I know the guy that owned it. I have a bucket of gauges, so we have all the gauges we need for the thing. And then I had that parts car duster out there I was going to grab like the glass out of and maybe some of the interior pieces that are missing out of this car just to kind of make it a little more complete, make it look a little better. But instead, I took stock of what we got around here. So let's let me throw on my shades. We'll walk outside. Ah, there we go. Instantly cooler, right? All right, so we picked this duster up as a parts donor for the Demon. The reason was it's got all the stuff the Demon's missing, right? It's got good quarter windows. The Demon quarter windows are iffy. It's got glass here. The Demon's got all plastic windows in it. We didn't really go around the car, but let me do that in a second. Glass here. It's got all the chrome trim around the windows. Stainless, I should say. Even that piece there, I've got it in the garage. It's got the wiper arms, the wiper transmission, all that stuff is in there, so I could take all that stuff out and put it in that car. It's got a manual steering box I was going to put in that car, because for drag racing you want manual. And you know, it would have been good to cut panels off of to fix rust and things like that on that car, even though it's super rusty in the same spots back here. So anyway, that was the thought when I picked up this duster. It's got some, like I said, some of the interior panels that are missing out of this car and the dash structure. All that stuff could have come out and gone in the Demon. Because here's what we got going on with this Demon. This is a 72 Demon. The guy thought it was a 71 that I got it from, but I actually dug into it and it is a 72. Easiest way to tell is the marker lights, which are the same on the fenders and the quarters. You see there, you can kind of see the outline here where they filled them. It's just got a little square hole here, and then there's a screw hole here and a screw hole here. That's how you know it's a 72, because in 72 they just had enough room for the plug to get through, and the marker light sat on top of the quarter panel. If this was a 71, it would have the same markers as this 71 Duster, which as you can see are recessed into the panel instead of sitting on top of it. There's actually a bezel around it and it fits down into a recessed area. So that's how we knew it was a 72. The grill could be changed easily. He said it was a 71 with a 72 grill, but turns out it is a 72. I also found a partial VIN here that's got the year on it. So that verified it's a 72 as well. So this car was pretty cool. The trunk's been gutted, meaning the substructure under here that keeps it reinforced is missing. If you guys watch Uncle Tony Garage, that's what he does on his cars. He cuts all the structure out from under the hood and things like that to lighten the car. Somebody did the same thing to this car. The bumpers are actually metal. They've just been painted. somebody kind of just went over this thing and painted everything white, including the stainless trim and whatnot, so that's why I was going to grab it off the other car. Just to make life easier. It's been filled here, you know, you could argue aerodynamics, but I think they just did that. It was probably damaged from the looks of things. It's not very straight across there. But anyway, this was the car. I don't know if I'll use this footage or pepper in some other footage. It's got a steering column with a factory Mopar wheel on it. Still got the Demon logos on the doors. But there's not much in here. The floor is actually pretty solid, even though it looks rusty. That's just surface rust. All the pinholes I found in it are from poor welding. There are some holes on the firewall up here, but that's from when they were bashing on it with a hammer for clearance, whoever built this thing. So it's a pretty cool car, and believe me, I don't want to get rid of it. However, I hooked up with a local guy here who is going to, I should use better words than that. I connected with a local guy here he's got a whole bunch of parts. He's just a parts hoarder kind of guy. He's got tractor trailers full of parts, and he's got a bunch of Chevy stuff. He's got some Mopar stuff. So we're going to trade him this car for some of the stuff he has. And depending on what he ends up coming up with, we're either going to end up with some parts for that motor, because I'm keeping the engine, or we're going to come up with some parts for this S10, because I'm just on the fence on what to do with this thing. It's drivable and clean enough the way it is. I just got to, well, I got to wash it and all that, but it's, I don't know. It's at a point where I'd have to do some pretty major work to it to keep it more interesting. I'd have to airbag it, maybe put a V8 in it, redo the bed, you know, some pretty big time work. So here's what I'm thinking. I don't know if I'm going to do this. I'm still on the fence. I think I want to bring this in. I want to clean it up, empty it out because it's full of garbage inside. And I want to see what kind of shape the floor pans and everything are actually in. I suspect it's completely wasted on the bottom. I mean, you can see it's got holes in it. Let me zoom in. Actually, here. Let me shorten up the old selfie stick. Now we can just walk over there. Okay. So you can see this thing is definitely got its fair share of rust. There is no doubt. The gas tank's just laying under there. The bottoms of the frame rails up here have rust on them. I saw that while I had it up in the air. You can see this wheel well's rusted. And if you look in the front, it's way bad, right? We got rust here. Got a ton of rust right there. There's a giant hole in the fender well right there. This is definitely a rusty car. Now there's certain things, like we got Swiss cheese on the fender extension here, but this fender extension is fine. So this filler panel right here is fine. This panel up here is rusty, but it might be savable. It's just she's pretty far gone. But here's my thinking. It's got a dent in the door there. Let's get you in the interior real quick. So this car is super cool because of one thing. That is a factory canvas roof. Very rare option. I believe it was installed by a company other than Mopar or the Chrysler Corporation. I don't know the details. I just know they're very rare. And this one is original to the car. You can kind of tell here where the car has kind of been modified for it. It could have been aftermarket installed way, way long ago. But I'm pretty sure this came on the car originally. The car was purple. It was plumb crazy. That door is good to go. It's got the Duster logo on it. It's still the original door. This one here is off a later model, so it's different. I'd need to replace that if I'm going to keep this car. But it's all there. But I got to clean all this crud out of here to see just how bad the floor pans are. Since this thing was sitting in a field for like 25 years on the ground like this with no rear differential and no front tires, I suspect the whole floor pan is going to be wasted. So if that's true, I still think it would be cool to try and save this car. So here's my thinking. This car has a 108-inch wheelbase. I think it's 108.2 or something like that wheelbase. But interestingly enough, if the floor pans and all that are wasted on this thing and we're trying to keep things cheap, that S10 right there has a 107.9-inch wheelbase. In other words, it's basically the same as that car. So my thinking is, and bear with me a second, we take the frame out of that, we mount this body on that frame, we stick that 400 big block with a tunnel ramp sticking out of it, and we put that thing up in the air and we make it into a street freak and leave it rusty Don't clean it. I might do some work to it to make it look a little better, but for the most part, I'm not going to try and sandblast it or anything like that. If we did, we'd probably lose most of the body because it's thin. It's real thin, especially in areas like this where it's really pitted. Hopefully you can see that. I can't see the viewfinder because of the sun, but if you can, hopefully you can see that's really pitted. So if I actually tried to sandblast and grind all the rust out of here, we'd end up with an aluminum foil body. It would be too thin. But I might do some testing on it to see what it can take. But yeah, I'm thinking that might make a neat thing. Go ahead and look up Street Freak, do a Google or DuckDuckGo search, and look up Street Freak. I'm thinking this car would look pretty good that way. And depending on the parts this guy trades me for the Demon, is going to kind of determine where we head with the next project. If he has stuff for the S10, we'll get back on the S10. And don't get me wrong, if you guys are here for S10 content specifically, there are a few things we can still do on the truck. I'd still have to button a few things up. Battery hold down needs to be dealt with. I still have holes in the firewall we need to deal with. So there's things we can do on this truck. I'd like to repair the bed. I'd either like to repair this door, somebody cutting the bed to do the fuel pump, or maybe replace the whole inside of the bed anyway. I want to get rid of that gap right there. There's plenty to do on this truck. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm kind of in limbo because I don't know what the next project's going to be, and I don't want to pull something in here and take up all the space and time just to pull it back out and work on something else. So probably another week or so before I find out what we're doing on this thing. He's already started pulling out parts and sending me pictures, and it looks like good stuff. So I'm sure we'll make a deal of some kind. So unfortunately, the Demon is not going to be sticking around. I love these things, just so you guys know. 71 Duster, like that thing out there, is my dream car. Like if I was told I have one car to build left in my life, I would want to build a 71 Duster. The Demon, close second because it's basically the same car. But the 71 Duster, I just like the front ends on the Dusters a little bit better. They're a little bit longer on the Dart, or the Demon, which is a Dart, by the way. Dart Sport. But anyway, for those who don't know, they only called this car a Demon for 2 years, in 71 and 72. And that's the logo right there. And the reason they only called it a Demon for 2 years and then changed the name to Dart Sport in 73 is because people were offended by calling it a Demon. People who had religious opposition to it. So Chrysler changed the name after 2 years. But essentially it's the same car as a Duster. Alright, so that's where I'm at. I'm not sure what we're going to be working on next year. And because of that, we're going to do some other stuff in the next couple of videos. I already told you I found a lot of older footage that never made it out. I want to do a video getting you guys caught up on the front suspension on this truck. Last time we left off, I had just cut the coils, and then I never really followed up on that. It only had cut coils in it for about 2 weeks. And it's been changed completely now, and it's good to go. So we'll get to that soon, I hope. I'm hoping everybody's not out there cutting their coils and wondering why they did it. I told you in the video, don't do it. So anyway, yeah, so we'll have to figure that out. It's either going to be some major work on the S10, or it's going to be trying to cobble together a Street Freak out of what we got here, which is still going to be a butt ton of work. And honestly, I'm looking forward to a project like that, or even airbagging this S10, because now that I got the welder running, I got the air compressor up and running, I really want to do some fabrication. Alright, so that's it for this week, because the video's starting to get kind of long, and I don't want it to be too long. So I'll get that S10 stuff out soon. I had the suspension out of that truck 6 or 7 times, doing it in stages with different parts and doing some product testing. So as soon as I can get through all of that, I'll be releasing those videos either as shorter videos and more of them, or one longer video. I don't know until I start editing it how that's going to go. And hopefully in the next week or so we can iron out what we're going to be doing as far as wheeling and dealing on that Demon. Once I know what parts that I'm going to have access to, that'll help guide me towards which project we're going to work on next. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there until we get this all sorted out. And thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps grow the channel. And I really look forward to seeing you guys next time. So until then, take care.